Bienvenidos, worldwide fans of the planet's hottest entertainment with an edge. Jaime En Fuego here, welcoming you to my namesake program, Enfuegotainment. You can just call me Fuego for short. And this is another rapido review as I am in seclusion, in hiding, self-quarantine, whatever the hell y'all want to call it. And this is for a film that I deliberately skipped when it was initially coming out. I was a big fan of Neill Blumkamp's District 9. And when Elysium was coming out and I just read moderate to kind of positive reviews, but then talked to fellow film critic fans, friends, colleagues, all this different stuff, they were like, well, it's good, but it's a little preachy. And so for that reason, I didn't check this out or Chappie out. But I must admit, a year or so ago when he was doing these short films online, which were really, really dope, there was the straight up post-apocalyptic one, there was the Vietnam one. I mean, Blumkamp has always been a filmmaker that I've respected the hell out of. I am just crushed to the core that he was cock-blocked by Ridley Scott in the manner in which that he was. That just pissed me off so much because of the fact that I wanted to see that spiritual sequel to the second Aliens film that kind of retconned 3 and Resurrection and everything else. I mean, shit, man, if the Halloween franchise can do it and so many others at this particular point, why couldn't the Alien franchise have? You know, it would have been awesome, the concept art that I saw, but, you know, I digest, to quote my homie from over at, Willis Greedia CP, that this is all about Elysium. And Elysium is the 2013 film that starred Matt Damon and a host of other cool peeps, you know, from Diego Luna to Jodie Foster. And I mean, really, this was a film that I arrived with specific preconceptions about based on what I had checked out previously and why I had this just reluctance to watch it initially. And I got to give a shout out to Jason Smith from Sinister Cinema Reviews. That's right, my second shout out in this video because of the fact that I saw him in the midst of quarantine himself going through the Blumkamp collection, and I guess I have to finally get around to Chappie at this particular point as well with those Die Antwoord, however you pronounce there. I think you're freaking and I like you a lot, guys. But yeah, I guess I'll eventually get to Chappie, but you know, he was just going through the dude's entire I mean, he's only got 3 features under his belt at this point, you know, besides the shorts that I mentioned. So, you know, that is something in and of itself, but it's like, okay, I have the time, obviously, so let's give Elysium a shot. And it wasn't at all what I thought it was going to be. Not only do we have a bigger budget than we did significantly for District 9, which received a Best Adapted Screenplay Academy Award nomination. Didn't win, unfortunately, but just that sort of recognition is what attracted the star power for this follow-up for him. And he has way more money. The effects hold up. They look terrific in this. And obviously, you know, the star power too, you know, to be able to get a Matt Damon as your lead, you know, who I think he was still very much in the midst of the Bourne movies at the time, because I haven't watched any since the first one. That's less my thing. I mean, you had to twist my arm to even watch the John Wick movies as far as like newer action, almost borderline immortal, indestructible kind of guys go. But Jodie Foster is the villain counterbalance to our Matt Damon hero, and so it's in the distant future, but not really that too distant of a future for this being a 2013 movie. Now it's 2020. The film takes place in 2154, so 100 plus years in the future, but yet Earth's technology doesn't look like it's really advanced that much. The advancement is where we see this proto-idea that NASA suggested back in the 70s of this, like, it's like a circular space colony, you know, that at certain times of the day would get enough, you know, like heat from the sun to continue to maintain, and I'm assuming grow plants and all this other stuff. I'm guessing, even though they don't necessarily mention it or even show it, there would have been a rotation aspect to this. It's almost like snowflake status, but made of, you know, various metals and alloys and stuff like that. So it's circular, and then there's like bars going across it, and there is the richest of the former inhabitants of Earth that live up there. Everybody else, the little, you know, the bourgeoisie, you know, the peons, whatever you want to say, they are the ones that are still back down, languishing in doing all of the construction that helps keep this base up there alive, but also not being privy to any of the just medical advancements and just instant healing that is just a day-to-day commodity of being up there in Elysium. And so, you know, I thought that, admittedly, this was going to be like a Matt Damon leading like a big, like huge crowd of peeps and revolution, you know, fight and all this other stuff, but it was really on a much smaller, more intimate scale than I was anticipating, and Damon's performance is great, you know. Matt Damon, you know, I haven't always loved everything that he's done. You know, Good Will Hunting, sure. You know, I enjoyed him stretching his acting limits with Talented Mr. Ripley and other things like that in the 90s, but I never bought him as an action star. I will just admit that, just like I have issues buying John Krasinski as an action star in a lot of ways. But lo and behold, he impressed the hell out of me in this movie because of the tender, just kind of, I mean, he is this orphan child who forms this friendship in this, you know, in this orphanage, obviously, run by presumed, you know, Catholic, you know, nuns and stuff. And so he can't read. He's, you know, he's stuck between Spanish and English and all this other stuff. He ends up in modern day LA, and he reconnects with this girl who was a friend of his, at least when he was very, very young, who kind of took him under his wing, or took him under her proverbial wing and everything. And yeah, so Elysium is where all of those people dwell that I said that are the richest of Earth, and everybody else dwells below in, you know, sickness and poverty and everything. And it's all about Damon working in this factory, and there's an accident that transpires that puts his life on a ticking time clock. And, you know, he was always dreaming of getting up to Elysium before, and after this accident, it's all about getting up there as quick as possible, because getting into one of these healing bays is going to be the only way that he doesn't die. And I will admit, the end game is very telegraphed, and I could see it a mile away. It's not necessarily, from what I recall, hinted at in the trailers, but once I saw the injury, and once I saw the job he decides to go on with some of his underworld friends, you know, that had previously, you know, got him in trouble in the first place, and that's where Diego Luna's character comes in, and a couple others, it's like, okay, I kind of get the idea where this is going, especially when he reconnects with said friend who took him under her proverbial wing when she could read and he couldn't. But the budget is terrific. The set design is awesome. The effects hold up. We even get in a total just, you know, reversal role. Our lead guy from District 9 is, aside from Jodie Foster, who was up on Elysium and just being a super bitch and, you know, pulling the strings and all of this other stuff, trying to overthrow said president up there, and, you know, she's very nefarious, she's very underhanded and whatnot, but she employs grunts back down on Earth, and the guy who plays our grunt is none other than our lead dude from District 9. He was also in Hardcore Henry. I mean, he's a buddy of Blumkamp's, and so that's why he was back in this, but playing a just brutal villain. And I love even like the costuming design of some of these like almost like super soldier, like half mech kind of suits, these like spinal kind of things and like attachments back to the head and arm restraint kind of stuff that gives them, you know, super power and strength and lack of fatigue and all this other stuff. I mean, there was so much that I didn't anticipate appreciating about this movie that they brought to the table in both the fighting and the violence and all of that, and then also in just the heartstring pulling, gets you in the feels like directly to your core, that this also did as well, you know, between the dynamic with the daughter of Matt Damon's old friend who he reconnects with, to, you know, I mean, various other, like, you know, sub aspects and whatnot, B plots and whatnot. It's more heartfelt than I anticipated, and I thought it was going to be kind of hackneyed and cheesy and all this other stuff. And yes, it does, especially in the third act when the violence is revved up and you've got like man-on-man fighting in certain instances and whatnot. Yes, it does delve into some meatheadedness and just more barbaric, sophomoric, you know, whateverness. But as a whole, going in with why am I finally watching Elysium, it looked kind of lame and cheese from the trailers, super preachy, all that other stuff. Granted, it definitely deals with immigration. It deals with the problems with healthcare and just the disparity between different income levels and violence and poverty and all of this different stuff. I have to give major credit to Blumkamp for really just taking all of these ideas and melding it into something that could be appealing, I think, to just the more like surface level of those who love high budget sci-fi that's R-rated and violent and unapologetic, but yet also those who, if you're willing to look past that, if it's not necessarily your thing, to understand all of the deeper messages within this. My lady watched this, and while she loved District 9, after the words she turned to me and she was just like, dude, I think I like Elysium better. Yeah, she turned to me. I'm just kidding. Yeah, she turned to me, man, and she was like, I think Elysium is superior because it had more to say. We know that District 9 also had some underlining themes and, commentary and whatnot, but maybe that's why this is a polarizing film, and the fact that whereas it was more allegorical in District 9, this really pushes it to the forefront and makes it a lot more obvious. But I'm glad that I finally got around to watching it. Damon is badass. He gives a great performance. The entire ensemble, Jodie Foster is a super B in this, just like the Authority Zero song, super bitch. And yeah, she plays it very, very well. So I guess I'm going to leave it at that and say that I plan on purchasing Elysium and adding it to my collection at this particular point because I liked it that much. I'm going to give this 4 out of 5 Fuego Fireballs. That's right, this is a Fuego film, and I'm kind of disappointed it took me this long to get around to watching it. So, I've been Jaime En Fuego. Y'all can find moi on all social media sectors like Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, here on YouTube. This is a retro Fuego review. So if you're watching this on a Thursday is the throwback day where my new review is always going to be something that is at least a year or more old that I just didn't get around to watching initially. So previous incarnations here have been The Gate. Boy, what was the other one that I watched recently? The title is eluding me. But basically, Thursdays, you can look forward to something that is a little bit of the older variety. Boy, Empire Records was another older film that I checked out recently for Rex Manning Day. And Mondays is when I do animated Mondays or musical Mondays. I kind of jump back and forth, but yet there's lots of Star Wars coverage and reaching back to when we still had films in theaters. Marvel, comic book stuff, big budget coolness, and lots of Fresca reviews as well, fresh new stuff that now is pretty much only getting put on VOD. So stay tuned to all of that. If you like scarific stuff, youtube.com/The Horror Show channel is the place to check that out. At least one episode every day. It's my main channel, along with Cecil Laird, Suze von Slaughter, Robert Duell, and Marsha Parker. So it's a collective thing as opposed to this being solely me, donuts. Yeah. Only me. Not trying to, get myself in that discussion once again. But yeah, I mean, over there, it's a collective effort. We have over 32,000 subscribers, but that doesn't mean we don't implore you to check out the reviews and unboxings and video game Let's Plays and, trailer reactions, all that different cool stuff, reviews and everything else. So, I've been Fuego. Y'all have been rad status awesome. And until the real of Ka comes around once more, I shall say hasta luego, cinemigos and constant readers and viewers alike. But I'm hopeful that we get to share more of this palaver sooner rather than later. Peace out and stay safe. Get up to Elysium if you can.